for another Origins of Christian Rock. And boy, we've had quite a run. We've had Rex Carroll from White Cross. We've had Jimmy Brown from Deliverance. And most recently, Frank Hart from Atomic Opera. And this week I'm really excited because, and I've been excited in the past, but we have Luke Easter, former lead singer for Tourniquet, and also having a very successful solo career as well. So let me go ahead and get Luke on the screen here, and we'll chat for a little while. All right. Well, Luke, thanks for joining us. We got you on the screen, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, it's certainly a cool thing to have you with us. And boy, anybody that knows Christian metal knows the name of Luke Easter. And it's you got to forgive me because sometimes I'll want to say a different name, and that's because there was a successful Christian hip hop artist called Luke Garrity. And so sometimes if I ever say Garrity, just forgive me and you can correct me. That's no problem. I'm pretty sure you're not hip hop.
No, but he's probably better known than I am. So,
right. You know, Luke, we go back quite a ways. The first time I met you was at a Milwaukee Metal Mania, and you guys were Tourniquet was in concert there, and you guys were sharing the stage with King Diamond and Body Count. I remember seeing Ice-T there, and Morbid Corpse, and you know, just all these bands that converged on the rave in Milwaukee. And I came with a press pass, and I absolutely did not look like I hung in the metal crowd. I was recovering from a mullet and everything, and I remember calling, and somehow you came out of the building and got me and brought me up into your guys' room, and that's when we first really met. And you had the big hair and everything, and from there, what's that?
I miss that hair.
Oh yeah, you had a serious head of hair, and it was like a tight curl. Yeah, I mean, so you've had quite a history in the Christian metal scene, and so thanks for joining us. I do appreciate that.
Of course, thank you.
Maybe what we'll talk about is, we'll talk about some of the days gone by, and and what you're up to now. And so, I guess people that follow the Christian metal scene, they know your first album that you were on was, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, was Vanishing Lessons, correct?
Well, correct. Yeah, I toured for the Pathogenic record, but the first record that I was on was Vanishing. Okay.
And if I remember correctly, you even, with that album, you guys took main stage at Cornerstone.
Yes.
And so that was just a really cool time in Christian metal, seeing a metal band up on the main stage. But take it back quite a few more years, and I guess the question that not too many people know or know your story is, at what point did you become a Christian?
I grew up in a Christian home.
Okay.
My parents were Catholic originally, and they became, I guess, Protestant believers. I don't want to diss the Catholics, but they went on that branch of being a Christ follower when I was about 2. Okay. So I grew up in church. I don't remember ever not being in church. I don't remember ever not identifying as a believer. But I probably, in my late teens, I got serious about it and decided that it wasn't just, like a cultural thing that I'd been raised with, that it's, I believe it and I'm all in.
So were you part of the story of, like a youth group kid and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So then, so growing up, what were? I mean, here's it was kind of interesting. My upbringing is in the Assemblies of God, and when I was talking with Frank Hart from Atomic Opera, he said, "Yeah, I went to a Bible college in Springfield, Missouri, and anybody AG knows that's the Holy City." And so he said, "Yeah, I went to CBC, which was an AG college, and." but regardless of upbringing, here you are. You're brought up in a Christian home. You're part of the youth group, and you're doing this. Where did the metal come into play? And what did you hear, or what drove you to go into metal? Probably wasn't Amy Grant, I'm guessing.
No, no. I mean, obviously, so I grew up non-denominational. We had an AG pastor for a while. I had a lot of Foursquare friends.
Mm-hmm.
We were, technically non-denominational. And so all of the repressiveness that comes along with that. So secular music was verboten. It was not. I got grounded once. I got caught with a Motley Crue tape, and so I was literally restricted to my room for a week because I had Theater of Pain in the house. But I think it was probably Stryper. It's kind of a cliche for a Christian kid, but it was probably Stryper on Yellow and Black Attack.
That's really all we had too. I mean,
and even that was a hard sell with my parents. It's like, oh, they look like girls. He sings like a girl.
Yeah.
But no, look at the lyric. So I'm like, okay, you can listen to that. But yeah, that was probably it initially. The harder stuff didn't come till later. I was a huge Bon Jovi fan. I'm still a big Bon Jovi fan. So that was really more kind of the I really liked the melodic, big singable chorus thing. Stryper kind of scratched, both of those itches, the heavy guitars and a little bit more gravity, a little bit more weight to it than like the poppier stuff. But the poppier stuff was catchier and you wanted to sing it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the metal thing kind of came later. My good friend Chris Canojo produced the Pop Disaster and played both the guitars on it. He actually was the one who started getting me into heavier bands. He was the one who come home with Recon or Deliverance.
Oh yeah.
First time I heard Stop the Bleeding was in his bedroom, one weekend. So fast forward to joining that band. It was really surreal, so it's been kind of cool that, Chris turned me on to that, and then Chris played on the demo that I sent in to get the gig, and then fast forward a little more, and Chris and I are still working together after all these years. But
really cool.
And the fact that the Pop Disaster is so much more, quote unquote commercial and melodic, poppy, whatever. But the fact that he and I were gotten into the heavier stuff together, and now we've kind of come full circle, and we're doing the more commercial hard rock thing. So
cool. He's been with you for a long time.
He's been with me since I was probably 17, 18 years old.
That's awesome. Well, what did you have any did you have a band back in your teen years, or things?
First band I was with Chris.
Okay.
And Chris and me and a couple other friends in a garage. We were awful.
What style were you going for?
That depends on who you ask. We had a keyboard player who was very into like R&B and Latin music. We had a drummer who was really into worship music.
Okay.
I wanted us to be Def Leppard. So when you're young and you start playing, you don't really have a whole lot of choice. You play with who you know and who you have, and then you kind of fight it out. And then when you get a little bit better and you start meeting other players, then you have a little bit more choice about what you can do.
So we only know you as a vocalist. I mean, what do you play anything?
Well enough to admit to it? No.
No. Okay. Yeah. What do you dabble? Obviously, a guitar in your background there.
Yeah, I'm a rudimentary bass player. I play guitar well enough to demo stuff out to take to Chris, and then when it's time to make a record, I leave the actual playing to the professionals.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, I was watching a documentary last night, and It was on Apple TV. It was the history of it came out in April. It was the Beastie Boys documentary.
Yeah. So good.
Fantastic. And I love hearing those stories. And I think that's something missed is that longevity in, being together, like the Beasties, they were, I mean, outside of the girl that they,
Yeah.
had to pass on, but and when the one passed away, they were like, we're done. They were just that tight.
You look at U2. I mean, U2 has been together since what, 76? Same four guys. And the only change that they made was when their manager retired. You know, otherwise it's been that same group. From Jump Street. So that. I don't really like their newer music as much as I love their older stuff. But
I agree.
You have to respect that. I mean, they still share that vision and that loyalty and that camaraderie, and they just keep going together.
Yeah. So that's cool when you speak to your friend he's on the Pop Disaster album with you. There's a lot to be said about that.
I tell him there's no me without him. For a lot of reasons. I mean, making records, writing music, it requires a vulnerability, but if you're vulnerable with the wrong person, you're just going to get beat down and not feel like you have any potential or anything really to say, and you're going to quit. If you're vulnerable with somebody who respects you and values you, they're going to encourage you when an idea is good, but they're going to pull you off the ledge if you're out of your mind. And if it was just me locked in a room trying to do a record by myself, I would just make Slippery When Wet or New Jersey over and over and over. Chris knows that those are my some of my biggest influences, and those are like big touchstones for me in terms of phonics and structure and whatnot, and so he knows when to kind of let me go in that direction, but he also knows that left to my own devices, I'm just going to make a really bad dated 80s record. Whereas if he, jumps in there and goes, wait a minute, you're out of your mind. Stop. This sucks. Then he's honest with me when I need it, and he lets me have my head when, when I need it. So there's a comfort and a safety in there, but there's also still the vulnerability to be told, this song is no good. You need, either leave it or figure out how to fix it. But I'm not going to waste my time working on it because it's no good.
And that's important in music. Yeah, and that's important in music. For me, a pastor, is to have a team and to give each other room to be human. Number one, and just have those creative differences, like you said, if it was up to you, you'd be stuck in the 80s, and a lot of that is our age, or just that we just remember those things. So
those are the records that moved me. So that's what I want to, tap into. But just because that moved you doesn't mean it'll move someone else. So you have to figure out how to get that energy across, but not necessarily in the same way. And like you mentioned, with being a pastor, I'm sure that there's pastors you look up to that if they rebuke you or encourage you, it has a lot more weight than just some punter, sitting in the back row with a bad attitude telling you, I didn't like your message this week.
All right. Yeah. I'm not giving you my tithe. Yeah. Right. And you guys kind of dabbled with that, with the other band, you guys had the Vanishing Lessons, but then there came out I don't know that it was, maybe it was the Crawl to China album, but there was a song about senior citizens and elderly.
That was on Vanishing Lessons.
Yeah, and that was a total departure from the metal thing. But then you came back, so and even on your Pop Disaster album, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there was Sideways, as we were talking about earlier, and then all of a sudden we came back to the next song, and there's your voice again. What us that have followed you have heard all these years. So it's kind of cool to see that diversity.
It's more fun, I mean, I think obviously with that band, by the time I joined, they'd gone really, really heavy with Pathogenic record. Mm-hmm. the tour, the shows were, I brought whatever it is I bring. I'm coming from more of a, pop, hard rock mindset, but I was still metal kid. So I tried to balance out the crowd participation and not just, being stuck to the floor with a mic stand. But also, making sure that it was heavy and visceral.
Yeah.
But with that record and tour, it had pretty much gone, as far as it could go at that point.
Yeah.
So Vanishing Lessons, for a lot of reasons, was a great response to it. New singer, new producer, and so pretty much a blank canvas. So a lot of it, in my recollection, a lot of it was like, hey, we've never done this, and he can do that. So let's do this, let's do this, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it worked out. I mean, there was some firsts with that record. It wasn't like we were chasing, chart success and, singles and Dove Award nominations and stuff. But some of that came along. I think if memory serves, our first time being nominated for a Dove Award was Vanishing Lessons.
Oh.
I could be wrong on that. There might have been something earlier. I know You Get What You Pray For, one of the earlier songs that Guy wrote, got a lot of traction. But we had success at rock radio, not just at metal radio in the Christian market. And I think some of that is because, like you were saying, we took risks and were willing to be creative as a group. We didn't just have to do blast beats and down picking. We could take a little bit of a left turn into something like Twilight.
Sure. And Vanishing Lessons, obviously there's a lot of iconic songs on there. And in my opinion, I think the one that flexed your vocals the most was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Jesus Cristo. Was that it?
Hola Christus.
Yes.
Yeah.
That song, I remember my brother, he was in, him and I were listening, and we were like, oh my goodness, this new guy is just hitting it,
Thank you.
Yeah. But I think that song really just, for me, that one stood out. I mean, obviously it's been a lot of time because I forgot the title of that one, but it's, it really showed your vocal capabilities. And man, any fan of that group at that point was like, the years to come are going to be good. So
hopefully they were happy with whatever came out of it.
Right. Yeah. So I think you kind of alluded to it, but one of the questions people like to ask of any artist is, who was your influence then? Like, if you could say, I know you said Bon Jovi and others, but is there, other ones that you would look to and like this was kind of the driving force?
Writing wise, because I didn't start out in hard rock and metal. Again, growing up in a churchy home, a lot of it early on was like Second Chapter of Acts and stuff like that.
Nice.
I think that's part of why I like harmony. But one of the first artists that I got into that was, for me, this is somebody that I'm a fan of, not something that my dad just plays in the car.
Yeah.
Was Steve Taylor, and so that definitely had a lot of influence in terms of its like attitude, but also trying to hold the bar really high in terms of lyric quality and really saying something. It's not enough to be catchy and fun. There has to be some depth to the lyric. I don't know that I'll ever be as good a writer as Steve, but he's definitely somebody who had a lot of influence, at least in terms of the thought process.
Yeah.
And then obviously Striper. But as a vocalist, I love Queen, Megadeth, Bon Jovi, Extreme. Probably the two biggest vocal influences by the time that band would have been Gary Cherone, John Bon Jovi, and then because the Black Album was ubiquitous then, so there was definitely some Hetfield influence.
Yeah, when you said Queen, I think for me, two of my favorite songs by them are ones that aren't played on the radio, and it's 39. That's just a phenomenal little folky song. But another one that just stretched Freddie Mercury's vocals, and I don't know that they did it live, was Innuendo. That
they did live. They didn't tour that record, did they?
I don't think
Freddie
so.
Yeah, I know they did a couple videos, but I think Fred passed before.
Okay.
We could do any shows. Yeah, that song's amazing.
Oh yeah, it is, and I still remember on American Idol when Daughtry covered that, and the judges were like, "What are you doing? That song's way out." But he nailed it. But going back to your songwriting, you mentioned Steve Taylor, and I think if memory serves me correct, that your band then and Steve Taylor were at Cornerstone together one year.
My first year, actually the first 2 years I was there. 93 was when that's when I met him, actually. I mean, he probably has no idea who I am, but Guardian was touring with him.
Okay.
Well, I think they were supporting Miracle Mile, and they had been out with Steve, and I was talking to Jamie, and he left the room and came back like 5 minutes later and had Steve with him, and
wow,
I was a fanboy. I probably embarrassed him. Probably made Steve uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The following year was the year that we played main stage, and he was there again. And it was my entire life standing in the wings watching this show. Yeah,
I mean, he really did have brilliant lyrics, and a lot of people don't recognize this, but he wrote a lot of the early Newsboys stuff. He wrote for a lot of people and introduced us to artists like Fleming and John and these other ones that were just like phenomenal artists. So yeah, he's definitely a good one to look to as a mentor, or somebody that motivates you. So that's
well, and he's so multifaceted. I mean, he's a writer, he's a director, he's a producer, he's a performer, he's a songwriter. He's a Renaissance man.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess looking at some of the things that in your past and what you've done, what would be your most memorable concert experience for you when you were performing?
There's a couple.
Okay.
Obviously, the first one with any band, but talking about that band, the first show was outside of Tulsa. And on that tour, on the Pathogenic tour, I wouldn't come out until halfway through the opening song. They would play the title cut, and I didn't come out till after the big, distorted bass breakdown.
Yeah.
And the first night of the tour, our road manager had to shove me out on stage. I was completely fine until the show actually started. Part of it was nerves. Part of it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here. This is actually happening. And I had to shove me out on stage. So that's one. First time playing Flavo. First time playing Cornerstone. The second time we played Flavo, that was the biggest crowd that we ever played to, and King Gaines was on stage with us. So that was huge.
Yeah.
Those are probably the biggest ones.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I mean, I can't imagine it's for you to all of a sudden, here you are, you're part of this band, and there was an audience waiting for you. And by that point, they had quite the following. I mean, that was the band that a lot of us kids that were brought up in youth group. For me, my youth pastor always asked me to play the pre-service music because I was starting to become a music buyer for Christian bookstores and stuff. And I remember dropping a dog's breakfast for the youth group opening. He's like, "What? You need to shut that off, repent, all that stuff." And here you're now you're on stage and you're going to be singing all songs off of the Pathogenic album. So that's a big deal. So for people that have followed you during those days, I assume they follow you now, but they may not necessarily know what you're up to. And but you're still very involved in music. You have the Pop Disaster album, and Just talk to us. What are you up to? And there's a few people that responded to the promotional piece for this interview saying, does he singing anymore? And so they didn't know about the pop disaster. So fill us in on, what Luke's up to these days.
That's the downside of being an independent artist, and a downside of the industry having shifted so much the past few years. It's really difficult to cut through the noise and make people aware when things change or when you've got something new. But parted ways with that band ended in 2015. Started working on Pop Disaster with Chris. Released that in 2018. It was very, very well received. I didn't know what to expect. I crowdfunded the budget and came in, well over my target amount,
Awesome.
which was awesome because then I could pour more of it into the record. I had some really cool players on there: Tim Gaines, Dave Bach, Jesse Sprinkle, Josiah Prince, Chris.
Yeah.
Some old friends. My friend Jesse played bass on Misspent, and another Chris Cortez played drums on that song. So it was really cool. The core of it was played by Jesse and Dave and Josiah and Chris. So it kind of gave it more of a band feel. But I had some, I had family on the record, which was nice. And then I not enough material to go out and play live, and nobody really local that I would that I can play with. I'm on the West Coast, and everybody that I would play with is pretty much in Nashville.
Okay.
So I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around how to do that. Hopefully, once all this COVID nonsense is over, I can get back to that and do it for reals. But in the meantime, I've just been writing for the next record. I've gotten music for about half of it, lyrics for probably about as much. Not the same pieces though. And I've been doing some cool work, like guesting on other people's stuff. I did a couple collaborations with The Blame. I did a single with Gary Lanier. Just trying to stay busy.
That's cool. I love hearing the groups from back then. When you say The Blame, it's like your mind just, for me, it goes back to those Cornerstone days. I mean, these were phenomenal groups that are still around doing their thing. And my goodness, when you say Gary Lanier or Guy Ritter, Gary, he just released a new album. And boy, I tell you, these guys are just, and with, if you guys work together, just phenomenal sources of music and inspiration.
It's not something you can turn off. I mean, some people, I guess, they run their course and they just don't feel like doing it anymore, or it's just not as exciting. And then there's others that I just love it. I love music. I like writing it. I love performing, but it's also more so now that it's me generating the content. It's really rewarding to go into a studio with an idea and then walk out with this fully fleshed out thing. Sometimes it sounds very much like what you had in your head. Other times it just takes a completely different track than you anticipated. And it's like, whoa, that's so cool. So for people like me, and I imagine like Gary and the Blamed guys, the Jesse Sprinkles of the world, you just do it because you love it, and if it finds an audience, great. If it doesn't, well, we'll just keep going. This is what we do.
Oh yeah.
But like working with The Blamed, I've known Brian since I was like 19.
Okay.
He's a Bay Area boy as well. So it's been very cool to kind of be part of the Blamed auxiliary.
How old were you when you started with the other band?
I had just turned 22.
Okay. Yep. So and to this day, you still I follow you on Facebook and I see you at the NAMM shows and stuff, and it seems like you have still even though you may not work with them, you have quite a network of people that you know.
I'm acquainted with a lot of people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I see you doing a lot of selfies with these iconic people and stuff. And that's a show that would just be a lot of fun to go to.
NAMM show is mind blowing.
Yeah.
My wife went with me for her first time this past year, and she was exhausted and overwhelmed and can't wait to go back.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
My wife's very supportive, and the first time we went to Cornerstone, we came home and she was like, I think I'll just let you go next time. The late night concerts and,
Yeah.
and I, like you, I enjoy the diversity. I was there to see, in 2010, I was there to see some of the heavier acts, but I was also there to see Iona, because, it's just amazing set of music, and you can have an appreciation for all of it.
That was some of the cool stuff back then. Like, we'd play Europe. There was this maybe a year or two where it seemed like every time we were in Europe, we were on a bill with Iona.
Really?
Which was awesome. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
They were very cool people.
Yeah. It was funny. I went down there one year with a group of friends, and they were making fun of me because I wanted to see Iona, and they didn't know much about her. And then she took the main stage to do her sound check. We were camping down by the lake, and as soon as she started singing and they heard that music going, they're like, "Who in the world's that?" Because it was just an amazing sound.
Yeah, and, her voice.
Yeah, and
I hear her, like, I should just stop.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So, all right. So, just wrapping things up here, the big question that a lot of Christian metalheads would like to ask a veteran of the metal movement: what is your take on Christian metal today?
I'm not as connected to the scene as I used to be, but I mean, it's still vibrant. It's still going. It's really cool to see bands like Disciple. They're still doing killer work. Stripers, which is cool because they called it Foots for a while.
Yeah.
And it keeps growing and changing. I think it's more accepted as a genre, at least in church circles, than it was like when we were kids.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's not as edgy. I think it's easy to get really comfortable. In terms of if you're a performer in that genre, it doesn't seem as well. I'm afraid I'm going to sound pretentious. It doesn't seem dangerous like maybe it did, back in the day.
Yeah.
Like when Bloodgood was starting out or something.
Yeah.
But no, I think that as long as there's people with a heart for the gospel and who like heavy music and who understand that sort of outsider mindset, I think that Christian metal will continue to grow and thrive.
I think so. Would you ever entertain the thought of Cornerstone is gone, and unfortunately, what a phenomenal festival that was.
Really? I thought it would just turn into audio feed.
Right. Well, and there's nothing this year, and it was with Cornerstone's blessing that audio feed carried on. But now there's this one called Capstone, and a lot of the Japuza people are going to that as well. And is that something you would ever entertain? Down the road, if you could get out going again. Yeah. I
would love to play anywhere.
Sure.
What is Bon Jovi said that when they were coming up, they would play pay toilets and bring their own chain.
There you go.
I don't know that I'm quite that all in, but I'm close to it.
Sure.
You do this because you like to perform.
Yeah.
Making records is fine and it's cool, and to some degree it's a means to an end. But at the end of the day, it's that connection with people, and it's the performance aspect that keeps me back. And I've been away from that for far too long.
Yeah, well, you always have a place in Waupaca, Wisconsin, to come and do something. And
are you close to Pops and a George Webb?
Well, the closest George Webb is an hour and 45 minutes away, but we'll go there and go to Cops as well.
Cops is awesome.
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned second chapter of Acts, and one of the things I like doing at our church is I like to tap into, what little Christian music knowledge I have. And we actually had Matthew Ward at our church once, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was very neat to see, and there is something there. And we've had Spoken there, and like Grave Robber, and a lot of groups from different genres, and there's just something special regard if it's even if it's a big venue or a smaller venue like ours about connecting, and just people being able to see you and you being able to see them, and so I hope it works out for you.
Thank you. I hope so too. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to talk to them again.
So, how can someone get a hold of you? I have it up on the screen here. I'll put it back up, lukeeaster.com, but you're kind of all over the place on social media, aren't you?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Okay. And your music's on Spotify, I saw.
Music's on anywhere that you can stream it or download it. It's there.
Okay.
I'm not picky. I just want people to listen.
Yeah, and I would suggest anybody that is a fan of yours or wants to experience something new to go check out the Pop Disaster. It's a really good album. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. And if anybody has questions or want to get in touch with you, they have the website there. And again, thank you for all you've done for the Christian metal movement. And there's I've said it with a few of the past artists that every generation has those voices, those people that are iconic to their movement. Those that grew up in the 70s, they have Larry Norman, they have Barry McGuire, 80s rock, 90s rock, and you certainly have taken your place in the Christian metal movement as that's Luke's voice. So thanks for all you've done for that. So
that means a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a good night and stay healthy out there in Cali, and we'll hopefully stay in touch with you.
Totally. Thanks again.